they are able to make. Yes, keeping the momentum so far is a strong message that they have sent, but they will expect it to do more in the coming days.
Isn't it strange to think that people were getting used to this in Cairo? Yes. Ibrahim, stay with me one moment. I think I can go to Hoda Abdelhamid, who is live over Tahrir Square. Hoda, that crowd has really lifted in the last 10, 15 minutes or so. Tell us about it.
Absolutely, it has really lifted, and apparently there's a group of government employees who came and joined the protest. Now, from what we understand, over the past few days, a lot of people came into Liberation Square and left, and when they left, they actually went to tell whoever they knew that it's not true that the people on Liberation Square are people who have been paid by foreign countries, as the government tried to say, and the government was trying to say that they were eating Kentucky Fried Chicken as a proof that these were all westernized people. So certainly a very big boost in the morale of the protesters here. They were quite worried this morning whether they called for a million-man march would be heeded or not. And as of now, a very upbeat mood. We're also expecting here on the square Wael Ghanem, the Google executive that was released last night. Now he is expected to come here and to speak to the crowd. He is expected to speak to the crowd from 3 different stages that are set around the square.
Any idea what the chanting was earlier, Hoda? I know it's absolute cacophony of sound there, but I'm always interested to know what the protesters are actually saying.
Well, at the moment they're saying the people want the fall of the regime, and that has been the one chant, the one regular chant throughout the day. Now there's some more humor-filled chants like, "You don't understand Arabic, what language should we speak to you? Go, go, invalid, invalid." But certainly today's main slogan is the people want the fall of the regime, because there is a fear among the people here that even if President Hosni Mubarak leaves the country, well, then what if the regime is still in place? What if the old ways the regime deals with the people remain in place? They want to make sure that all of that is eroded and rebuilt before they can leave the square, or at least that there's guarantees that that will happen.
What are you seeing further beyond Liberation Square, Hoda? You said to me an hour or so ago that there were sort of streams of people still heading for the square. Is that still the case?
That is still the case, and from my vantage point, I would say that that stream actually looks like a thicker stream of people. It stretches all the way across Kasra Nil Bridge, and it also stretches on the sides of the bridge through what is called now referred to as the front line, because it was the area where the violence happened last week between the pro-democracy protesters and the pro-Mubarak supporters. It's been nicknamed the front line, and I can see also a steady stream of people coming into Liberation Square from that area.
If I heard you correctly earlier, you said that Wael Ghanem, the Google executive who was released, is going to come to the square and address the crowd today. Do you think people are now looking to him as a leader for a movement which otherwise hasn't had a leader?
Well, all along I heard that they did not want one single figure as a leader. And the various groups did come together over the past few days and announced a coalition of what is referred to as the 25th of January Revolutionary Youth. Now, Wael Ghanem is probably going to be an emblem of that just because of his personal story. He does say that he does not want that role, but he is certainly a man who resonated a lot among Egyptians, certainly among all those people who came here today. So I would expect a lot of cheering, and I would expect that whether he wants it or not, he will be a leading figure in all of that.
Let's just pause for a moment and remind viewers of what's going on today in Cairo. The protesters, the pro-democracy movement, calling for another mass rally, and they've certainly got it. The numbers have come out and really lifted, as Hoda was telling us, excuse me, in just the last half hour or so. Ibrahim Shakir in the studio with me. It is a different feeling now, isn't it? They seem more energised. I mean, yes. I guess that just happens as numbers increase throughout the day, but certainly they know they've got to keep their energy up if they want to be successful.
Absolutely right, Kamal. Actually, Huda mentioned something very interesting in her report, which is there are government employees that are participating. And
yeah, she said they came in and it almost lifted at that point as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, and we have to keep in mind that the government announced just very recently that they're giving a raise.
15% pay rise.
There you go.
Quite right. You're quite
15% right.
So they got something good, but now they've still joined the...
There you go, which is a very strong response to the new strategy of the government that they're trying to buy loyalties at this point, and especially they're addressing the largest sector in the society, which is the government employees, which is a very large sector in the society. And with the 15% raise, the regime was expecting, them to be more loyal. But here, Huda is telling us that they are joining the crowd, which tells me that the strategy or the latest development that's coming from the regime on how to manage the crisis is really not working. And we need to keep in mind also that what economically, what 15% means, that this is going to mean higher wages for the government employees, which also means higher inflation. So higher salaries means higher inflation in any society, which means that really the government...
So these are just knee-jerk reactions, you think? Just the government saying we'll do something rather than nothing?
Thank you very much, because this doesn't show that the government is really having a sustainable strategy to deal with the crisis, and it's responding to these developments by coming up with such thing like a 15% increase. But on the long-term impact on the Egyptian economy as a whole, this is going to leave, if the increase is going to happen, because we don't know yet how this is going to be managed. So far we are only dealing with words and promises, but if it's going to be implemented, it's going to be higher inflation. And while the government obviously lacks a strategy of how to deal with the economic implications while it's being under...
Ibrahim Shakir, they're talking to us about some of the concessions which have come in today. 50% pay rise for government employees. Another one of the concessions came directly from the Vice President, Omar Suleiman. And I'm going to talk to Andrew Simmons about this. He's live in Cairo for us. This was basically him saying, look, we're going to put a steering committee in place and we will implement reforms, but not giving much more than that.
Well, yes, the Egypt State Broadcasting broke out of normal programming to take this statement to camera, in which Omar Suleiman made 4 points, really. The first, a presidential decree from Hosni Mubarak to form a committee to look into a new constitution, and that takes effect immediately. Secondly, apparently President Mubarak has asked Suleiman to form an investigation into the events of last Wednesday. That was when the pro-Mubarak supporters mounted vicious attacks on the pro-democracy demonstrators. And thirdly, he vowed that there will be no purge against the protesters, no follow-up, no detentions, arrests, and revenge taken on them. And fourthly, he mentioned again that these orders were coming down from Hosni Mubarak, that he will continue with national dialogue, the talks with opposition groups. All those 4 points. And we have those pictures, we have what he said, and this is how he addressed the nation.
Today, the President signed a presidential decree for the formation of the Constitutional Committee to carry out necessary amendments to the Constitution and the parallel legislative amendments. He also instructed the Prime Minister to form the steering committee to follow up with the precise implementation of the agreements reached by the parties to the national dialogue, and a third fact-finding committee on the incidents and clashes of Wednesday last, and to refer the outcomes to the Chief Prosecutor to take necessary actions.
Okay, Andrew, let's leave the politics there, turn to what's actually going on where you are. It looks like you've got a nice sort of high vantage point. What are the crowds like heading towards Tahrir Square? Because our correspondent there has been saying it's been just jam-packed.
Yes. Well, certainly, definitely it looks that way. Let me just try and show you now. The camera zooms in here along this very long traffic jam. It wasn't like that on Monday or indeed Sunday. There are crowds all moving towards the square. At the end of this zoom, you'll see blue barricades where the crowds have been checked over for security checks. quite thorough checks now being made on the way into the square, and so a very crowded scene there. And what we're hearing back from the demonstrators is that they believe there's more window dressing really on offer from the regime, and it's a situation whereby this is really a proxy affair with Mubarak still president, and until he stands down, they are not going to leave the square. The Muslim Brotherhood, which has had talks, they said they were there to listen.